Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show, where we get to the heart of why you overeat and how to stop. If you struggle with food and weight like I did, welcome home. Hi, welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show. I am Tricia Nelson, your host, and I'm super happy to be here. Thanks for tuning in. I always like to start with a fun food fact. So what I'm going to tell you here is possibly more interesting to me than it is to you, just because it brings back memories. The first product to use barcodes was Wrigley's chewing gum, and it was back in 1974 in the United States. And the first product was a 10-pack of juicy fruit gum. Now, I don't know if a 10-pack means 10 sticks in a pack. It probably does. You know how they used to have those thick packs of long, skinny pieces of chewing gum? Well, it's very interesting to me because as soon as I read this fact, I remembered that in 1975, I got busted because my sister had given me, for Christmas, she'd given me a pack, like a plastic bag, big pack of smaller packs of, maybe of 5 pieces each pack of juicy fruit gum. Okay, it was great stuff, juicy fruit gum. Oh my God, they had like orange stripes and yellow stripes and green stripes, red stripes, and oh, it was so good. Making my mouth water now. So anyway, I got this bag of packs of juicy fruit gum. And right after Christmas, I was in the choir, singing in the choir at our church, and which was a regular weekly thing. And so I was at church, but I brought this gum with me. And I had this friend, Dorothy Howe, and we're still Facebook friends to this day. And she's a sweetheart, but we both were little rascals, okay? And together we were trouble. So anyway, I gave her some gum, and we started chewing this gum during church, during the service, the big service, like the one where huge congregation. So we're sitting there, and I'm in the front pew, over to the side of the altar, chewing gum, and believe it or not, like blowing bubbles with the gum, not popping them, not making noise, but it was clear I was chewing gum, and I was having the time of my life sitting there with Dorothy Howe, and we were just chewing away. Well, all of a sudden, I see my father walking up the middle aisle of the church, and then I thought, oh, well, he's going to do a reading from the lectern. He did that sometimes. And no, he bypasses the altar, and he walks over to where we're sitting, and he puts his hand out. He stands right in front of me. He says, "Give me the gum." And he meant, give me like what's in your mouth. And so he's like, "Give me the gum in your mouth." And so I took it out of my mouth, and I put it in his hand, and he turned around and walked back to his seat, and he put his hand in the pocket. And I'm like, what's he doing? But that was it. And then afterwards, after the church service, was I in trouble. I was in big trouble, and I got grounded and couldn't play with my friends or anything. I was 8 years old. I was in 3rd grade. And I was so mortified, and he was so pissed off. And the worst part of all is that he took my juicy fruit gum from me. I mean, I had this whole package of it. So of course that's the worst part of this story. Don't take my goodies away from me. But anyway, that's my memory after reading that fun food fact. So barcodes and all, juicy fruit gum got me in trouble. Oh boy, that was bad news bears. So, and that's pretty indicative of my childhood. My dad was very straight-laced and very, he was a good dad looking back, but, and I was a little afraid of him. But, when I look back at that situation too, I realize, I was embarrassing him. He was very embarrassed that his daughter was sitting there doing what she did. And I was so mad at him for so many years. I carried that resentment, just that he had embarrassed me. It was all about me. And of course, after I grew up and started, taking an honest look at my life, I realized how right he was, to put a stop to my shenanigans. But I carried that resentment a long time, to be honest, until I finally was like, you know what? He was a good dad and he was a good disciplinarian, and I got what I had coming to me. So anyway, on to the topic for today, which is nuts for weight loss. Okay. And what I want to talk about are nuts, like nuts that you eat, obviously. And because it's a hard thing, I think, for emotional eaters, this whole business of nuts, because they are so calorie dense, like so calorie dense, and you can gain weight really fast eating nuts. So a lot of people don't eat them. Um, or simply can't eat them, can't eat them in moderation. And so I'm all for somebody who has acknowledged that they cannot safely eat something. I'm all for like just saying, I used up my coupons on that food. Like no mas, no more. And I've had to do that on several foods. If a food is like has way too much draw for me, and actually nuts, I've done that with nuts. There have been years where I was just like, no nuts for me. And there'll be other times in my recovery that it's been a perfect food for me in terms of quick snack, or I don't really use it as I don't really eat snacks, so a quick meal, like a fast food, like a really good healthy fast food. And in fact, I have for those who are watching, I have this little bag here of cashews. So this is literally, I bag these up. I buy raw cashews from Trader Joe's. They've got good raw ones, which, by the way, cashews I learned, are never actually raw. You can't get raw cashews. They actually do get cooked to some degree. Even the raw ones have been cooked to a degree. But nevertheless, this is my fast food. This is I have these bagged up, and for those who are listening, it's 2 ounces of nuts that I measure out, and I do that because they are high in calories, and if I'm leaving it up to my own eyes, I'd eat half the Trader Joe's bag, which is like jillions of ounces. So that's the problem with nuts, right? Because you don't get many of them because there's so many calories in them. It's hard to really feel like you're getting a lot, and for that reason, some people may not choose to eat them, or it may not be a safe food for them. I do like the quick, the fast food nature of them. And when I'm, running late, or, my schedule's gotten messed up, I never skip meals. I cannot afford to skip meals. And so I'll grab my little bag of nuts and take it with me, put it in my bag, eat it wherever I'm going. So I don't like to eat it in the car because I don't recommend eating, I recommend sitting and eating consciously. But the point is, it's a fast food, it's easy and quick for me, and I don't do it often. I just have it as a backup. And nuts are great as a backup also when you're traveling. There are so many things that I don't want to eat that are unhealthy for me. Some of them are unhealthy, period, and some of them are healthy for a lot of people, but they don't work for me because I've got food intolerances. And so nuts are always a safe bet for me if I'm in between flights or don't have time to grab an actual salad in the airport, and I'm running from one gate to another. I'll stop literally and find the raw nuts at one of those convenience magazine stores in the airport and grab the nuts. And I'm so grateful for them because they're about the only safe fast food I can eat. So I appreciate nuts from that standpoint. But let's get into the nutrition value of nuts, because some of them actually can be conducive to increasing your metabolism and losing weight. And I say that, with a bit of a caveat, which is what I've already said, which is, they can get you in trouble too. So the idea that they're good for weight loss, we all hear these studies like, oh, red wine will actually help. It's a good anti-aging property. So people are like, yeah, pass the bottle. And people are like justifying drinking alcoholically because they heard this one study that said red wine, is good for you. And so they're always putting out studies like that help us justify, some nonsense. So I say it with, I say take this advice with not just a grain of salt, maybe a bucket of salt, because I don't want to, add to people's sense of self-delusion around food that they're, impervious to gaining weight if they eat certain things or whatever. Because I think every emotional eater has that little tricky part in their head that says, oh, it's okay. Like somebody once gave me permission, or this study gave me permission, and, I'm going to town and it's all going to be okay. Because that's not really true. But we have that tricky part of our heads that like to grab onto these things that we've heard and use it to essentially assume we're, quote, getting away with something, but then 10 pounds later we realize that maybe that wasn't such a good idea. So basically, nuts, are amazing, right? They taste great, and they have a lot of fat in them, which makes them palatable, like super palatable. And a lot of people don't eat them because they're a little afraid of them. And I totally get that. If you're an emotional eater and you cannot control your nut intake, don't eat them. Like, just don't eat them. Like, I'm not into trying to control things that are clearly out of control. And for me, there's plenty of foods that are that way. And I don't put myself through the torture of trying to eat them if I can't, So it's a self-care choice, really. But anyway, nuts like almonds have been found to lower cholesterol and improve sensitivity to insulin. And almonds have also been found really to help with weight loss as well. Walnuts, for instance, are rich in omega-3 fatty acids, and it makes them a great source of unsaturated fat. If you're not a fan of fish, that's a good way to go. Nuts in general are a rich source of vitamin E. So there's definitely some good properties. And again, not all nuts are created equal. So if you're eating dry roasted nuts with a bunch of salt and sugar on them, or nuts that are combined with raisins and M&Ms, from a granola bin or whatever, not really. So that's not really going to help out. So I recommend eating nuts raw and plain, unsalted, for the maximum nutrient benefit and the minimum caloric and just danger benefit. So, and one of the reasons why nuts are great for weight loss, or extrapolated to help with weight loss, is because they increase satiety, the idea of being satiated. So they don't make you full, but they can make you very satisfied and satiated, which helps reduce the amount of food that we eat. For me, even though I showed you a couple ounces of nuts, that's not very much. Personally, I can't eat, my body my metabolism is not very fast, so I can't eat a whole lot of nuts without it catching up to me. But a couple ounces of nuts for me, actually, for a quick meal is satisfying, especially if I drink some water a little, maybe 20 minutes or so after eating them. It sort of fills me up perfectly. But anyway, nuts can help increase metabolism, which burns existing fat and prevents fat storage. I've already talked about eating too many nuts. Definitely, that's a danger. So, and that's one of the reasons why I do measure them out. I literally measure them out, and some people might have an allergic reaction to the idea of measuring. I'm not into weighing and measuring my food, but when it comes to nuts, if I know exactly that I'm eating 2 ounces, I know that I'm eating an appropriate amount for my body for a meal. And sometimes I'll eat a little bit more, 2.5 ounces. Which is fine as well. But the bottom line is whatever it is that is appropriate for your body, and I can't say what that is, but whatever is appropriate for your body and your level of satiety, measuring out the nuts and having them pre-measured is much better for me than reaching my hand into a can or jar of nuts or bag of nuts, because why stop at a handful? Why stop at 2 or 3 handfuls? They're so good. And before you know it, they're all gone. So to avoid that, that's why I do that. I measure them out. But which nuts are best for weight loss? Well, Brazil nuts, I'd say, is number one. These Brazil nuts are a rich source of selenium, which is known to increase metabolism. And Brazil nuts also promote reproductive health and immunity. So this is the nut, ironically, that I hated the most. I mean, as a kid at Thanksgiving, we had that bowl of nuts and a cracker. So you could crack your own, open up the nut with a cracker. And I loved doing that. That's the best way to eat nuts, by the way, is have to open them from their hard shell. Slows you way down. Pistachios are good from that standpoint too, because you have to open them up and dig out the nut. Or walnut or pecan is the same way. So it's actually a great way to eat nuts. It makes you you get really busy, but you can only go so fast. But anyway, Brazil nuts I hated, and they came in a really hard shell. I couldn't even open them when they were part of that, those whole nuts. But anyway, Brazil nuts are super oily. Like, they're as oily as they get, but they are super healthy. So you eat, and they're big. So eat 5 or 6 nuts a day, and you've got a good allowance of selenium for the day. You can chop them up and add them to cereal, or if you're making just a grain-free cereal, they're a good thing to add. And you can roast them, as well. I mean, it's not that you can't eat cooked nuts, because cooked nuts are really super yummy, but definitely not things cooked in oil and then salted or whatever. But Brazil nuts have a rich, creamy flavor. And now I believe there's Brazil nut milk. Did I imagine that? No, I think there's Brazil nut milk. I mean, it's amazing now how many nut milks there are out there as alternatives to dairy. And I've taken advantage of lots of them. There's hemp seed milk, and certainly cashew milk. I eat cashew milk or drink cashew milk because I'm actually allergic to almonds. Total bummer there. But thank God they have cashew milk. So I think they have Brazil nut milk. I might have totally just imagined that, made that up. But anyway, bottom line is there are amazing nut milks now that help you stay away from dairy, and they're super good. I mean, they have some additives like guar gum and some other things, but those aren't bad for you necessarily. They're not like chemicals or anything. It's just a thickener agent, a natural thickener. But nevertheless, let's go forward with walnuts. Okay, so walnuts contain polyunsaturated fats, which help to improve your metabolism of insulin. Okay, they're really good for liver health, and they also help reduce stubborn belly fat. How about that? And walnuts are so yummy. I mean, they're like yummy on their own, or you can put them in recipes and different things, or eat them with some blueberries. But they're tasty and filling. And you can eat them also. A great way to eat raw nuts is sprouted nuts that you can get at Whole Foods oftentimes. Sprouted and salted. That's one way you could eat a nut salted, is if it's sprouted, because it's raw. And it's not just raw, it's even better for you than a regular nut because it's been sprouted and the healthy properties have been released. So that's even better. It's super expensive though. Oh goodness, they're expensive, but they are so good. Okay, almonds, great for burning for helping your body burn carbohydrates. They're rich in amino acid in the amino acid L-arginine, and they're great for your heart. So adding almonds to your diet. I mean, there's almonds in everything now, every health food at least. I mean, everything's got almonds, which is why it's hard for me since I don't eat it. I mean, so many salads at Whole Foods, they add like slivered almonds, and there's almonds in everything, or a meat that's crusted, like almond crusted something. It's sort of ground up in an almond meal. Almond flour is great. You can make some amazing grain-free products like pancakes using almond flour. I mean, it's such a versatile nut. It's amazing and delicious as well. But it does reduce the risk factors associated with heart disease, like high cholesterol. So, and also the skin of the almond is great fiber. It's also full of antioxidants, flavonoids, phenols, and phenolic acid that's also found in vegetables and fruits. So it's basically, they've said that an ounce of almonds has the same amount of polyphenols as a cup of green tea or steamed broccoli. So obviously they have higher calories than green tea or steamed broccoli, but just FYI. They're just, and almond milk is amazing. I mean, So Delicious makes it, Blue Diamond makes it, super creamy, and it's just a great alternative to dairy. If you haven't checked out some of these nut milks, you got to check them out. They're much better than milk. I mean, they taste better than milk. They're lower calories than milk. And basically they're healthier than milk because dairy can be a problem for a lot of people. Pistachios. Pistachios are great. These nuts do help really to shed the fat in your body. And again, everything in moderation. Don't go to town. But pistachios are good because they keep you busy while you're eating them. So you're not just you don't get a whole handful of pistachios unless that's what you buy. But if you buy the pistachios in their shell, it's great because you feel like you're getting more because you're getting the shell. Like if you measure some out, or you put a certain amount that you know is safe for you and you put it in a bowl, you have so much more than if you just put the nut itself in the bowl if you have the shells, which I think is great. More bang for your buck. Cashews are great fiber. If you eat them in the morning, I mean, they're great for helping you be regular, and also for sating your appetite. They're great. They're not as high in nutrients though as other nuts. Of course I love them because they're sweet, and I think that's what makes them so amazing, if they have that natural sweetness, which more so than other nuts. Macadamia nuts, oh my goodness, who doesn't love a macadamia nut? They're high in fat, like super high in fat. Like that's why they're so good. It's like you get this burst of fat when you eat one. I hope I'm not making people hungry. I shouldn't be so descriptive. But anyway, they're high in fat, but they literally do help with weight loss because they speed up metabolism and prevent fat storage. And they're also good for your heart and great fiber. So macadamias are great, but you gotta watch portion control. I mean, don't put your hand in a jar of macadamia nuts. You'll be eating till they're gone. So be careful on that. So obviously portion size matters, and moderation. I hate the word moderation. It's such an obnoxious word, and it's used by people who don't understand us emotional eaters. Like, what is moderation anyway, and how do you achieve it? Moderation meant nothing to me when I was in the throes of a binge. So that's why I hate the word. It's just it's almost condescending, like, oh, try moderation. Like, no kidding. Like, wouldn't I have if I could have? Okay, enough of that. But my answer to the moderation suggestion is by, as I said, getting a certain amount that I know works for me, putting in a little baggie, closing up the baggie, and having it available for when I'm ready to eat it. So pistachios, by the way, are the least calorie dense nut, while still containing all the fats and vitamins and minerals that you expect from nuts. So pistachios really are a good bet. And heart health and weight loss do go hand in hand, which is why nuts like almonds, pistachios, and pecans should be included in your diet if you can handle them. So they say 1.5 ounces a day helps reduce the risk of heart disease. And to be honest, 1.5 ounces ain't much, okay? So I'm just warning you, it's not a lot. And it might be a tease for you. It might be like it's better not to have any than to try to eat a little bit. So you have to evaluate that for yourself. As I said, some years in my journey, I've eaten nuts, and some years I haven't. It just depends on whether they become slippery for me. I mean, there's certain times in my past several decades, doing this that I've been on a more emotionally sensitive place, or emotionally vulnerable place, and so nuts have been slippery for me, and I've wanted to overeat on them. And again, I'm not into trying to make myself eat something moderately that I truthfully can't eat moderately. And so when that's the case, I cut it out. I don't try to, I have other battles to fight. And so I don't try to fight the battle of eating a food that I can't really eat without going overboard. It's too much. I don't have that kind of power. I don't have the willpower, and I don't want to, spend my energy trying to fight something that I'm going to lose at. So that's how I deal with that. But and nuts are amazing for an energy. They give you energy. They do fill you if you can eat a good amount without going overboard. And I mean, they're just a great, cute little thing. So anyway, that's my advice and take on nuts. They're amazing and they're accessible, and if you don't feel comfortable eating nuts, I mean, just know that that's totally fine. That they are a good backup if you're ever stuck somewhere. I mean, they're kind of a universal food, and for me, they're safe because they're not gooped up with a whole bunch of stuff. I don't know what I'm eating, and or sugar, or just God knows what else. And so it's always a fallback, but not my main source of food at all. I don't make a habit of eating nuts because I'd rather get my nutrients from salads. I'd rather get my fiber from fruits and vegetables. So I'm only talking fallback here, not a main course. So that's it for me. You might think I'm nuts, and I totally get why you would think that. And I am. So thank you so much. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you.
If you enjoyed this show and want to get free support, insider health info, exclusive invites to events, and more, visit healyourhunger.com.